Derby Out Time here with Charles Bright, Marcus James Dixon, Matt Noble, Riley Chow, and we're here to talk about directing in a comedy series and writing in a comedy series. But let's go with directing first. It's a very interesting category. The nominees are Donald Glover for Atlanta for the episode BAN, Jamie Babbitt for Silicon Valley for Intellectual Property, Mike Judge for Silicon Valley for Server Error, Morgan Sackett for Veep for the episode Blurb, David Mandel for Veep for the episode Groundbreaking, and Dale Stern for Veep for the episode Justice. So not a lot of diversity in this category, I have to say. There's three shows representing here. There'll be some vote splitting. I can already see what looks like might be the front runner, but I'm just going to go straight to Riley first, actually. Riley, how are you calling this particular category?
Yeah, I'm saying it's just vote splitting, so it'll be Atlanta. What's interesting, though, is that there was a similar case at the Directors Guild Awards a few months ago where they had double Silicon Valley, double Veep, and one Atlanta, and then Veep still won. So it is possible that they could overcome vote splitting.
Really, that really did happen. I completely forgot about that, actually. But
what's the voting process for the Directors Guilds?
Yeah, it's the same. It's just that they only have 5 nominees, whereas here we actually have 7 because of the tie. So. Or is it? Or sorry, 6.
Yeah. But do you think that would make a difference? Because that's actually really interesting that you mentioned that.
Well, it's just that votes are going to be split a bit more here because instead of 2 Silicon Valley and 2 Veep, we have 2 Silicon Valley and 3 Veep. So there's that.
Yeah.
I want to take Gold Derby to task a little bit for. In the prediction center, you can see that we've ranked Intellectual Property, the episode by Jamie Babbitt, slightly ahead of the episode by Mike Judge, Server Error, which is the season finale. So, yeah, I think pretty much somebody got into the prediction center first, and then they just slid one across. I guess it was Chris. But, yeah, Mike Judge, he has been nominated every season at the Directors Guild Awards and the Emmys. So he's got much more name recognition than Jamie Babbitt, who joined this season as the producing director, and whose episode is actually not even one of the 6 that they've included in their Best Comedy Series submissions.
So why do you think, Riley, that Intellectual Property got nominated? What particularly about that stood out to the people who got that ballot?
Oh, it's just the title Silicon Valley. I mean, in this category and writing, I was very proud to get all the nominees right. My theory was that their first priorities are Veep and Silicon Valley, and then the next priority is Atlanta, and then Master of None. So they ticked off as many Veep and Silicon Valley episodes as they could in this category and writing, and then they filled up the rest of their ballot with Atlanta. So in comedy writing, Master of None got one of its 2 episodes in because Silicon Valley decided to submit strategically. So I think there's a very clear hierarchy in terms of nominations, but then it's different when you're voting for a winner and there's vote splitting. And then also there's just the thing about how, like at this point, I think everybody in the Academy, with the exception of the acting branch, is aware of Veep in Silicon Valley. So even if it's not like their favorite, I think it's on everybody's radar. But I don't know how much passion they're actually going to get in this plurality system.
Yeah.
So I'm not predicting them for either category.
Yeah, and these were the only 2 episodes Silicon Valley submitted on the director's ballot.
That's right.
So it wasn't like it was chosen over other Silicon episodes.
No.
Marcus, how do you think this category is going to pan out?
I kind of love that. I mean, we're going to have a new winner here because Transparent won the previous 2 years. It's not nominated. Modern Family won the previous 4 before that. So the past 6 years has been dominated by 2 shows. So we're going to see a new winner. I kind of agree with Riley that vote splitting is going to happen. And so that means Atlanta's going to win just by default. But also, if vote splitting doesn't happen, I think Groundbreaking has a really, really good shot. It's directed by David Mandel, who's the new showrunner. And I think it's also up for writing. Yeah, for writing. So I would say that's definitely second place. Maybe I'll go crazy and put it in first place, thinking that, vote splitting really, it doesn't happen if there's a strong front runner of the show that's up. And I would say Groundbreaking is definitely the strongest of those 3 leads.
Yeah. What about you, Charlie?
Yeah, I would probably put Atlanta at number one. I'd put I actually would just keep an eye out for Mike Judge. He's just a recognizable name, and if enough people, this is voted on by the directors branch, correct? Just the directors branch, right?
Yes.
Yeah. If that name jumps out to enough of them, I think he could stand a chance in there.
Mm-hmm.
Matt, do you think that there's any way that Atlanta will lose this? Because I think it seemed like a no-brainer to me.
Yeah, I definitely don't think it's a no. Like, I don't think it's like got it locked up and signed, sealed, and delivered for Atlanta here, because Veep's won Best Comedy Series the past 2 years. It's obviously a show with a lot of love in the Academy. And in this branch, even though it's never won, it's gotten, 5 nominations in the past 2 seasons of the show. So it's a show with a lot of love. You can say similar to Silicon Valley. It's done very well with Emmy nominations in this branch and in other branches aside from the acting branch. And so, like, they're both shows with popular, and the showrunners are directors nominated here. So I think they've got a good chance. Like, I think they're in it, and it's hard, as sort of Marcus has said, in that we don't have any returning winners in this category. Yeah. So it is a bit of an open sort of, we don't know how the Academy is going to respond to Atlanta yet. Like, we know there's some support for it, but, that being said, I think Atlanta doesn't just benefit from vote splitting here. They also have their sort of creator as the nominee here in Donald Glover. Right? Have I got that right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's a huge factor. Could be a factor for them.
Yeah, so Donald Glover will win if they win. And also the episode BAN is an episode that is a departure episode. It's a stylized episode of the show from memory. Is that right? I've got the right one, aren't I?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So that one is an episode that stands out as well as a sort of directorial achievement, because they're dealing with sort of limitations and a stylized sort of show and things. So I think maybe the only thing that could hurt is that sort of nature of the show is, or episode is, maybe a bit more multicam in style, the elements of it. And that might, not seem as impressive as a sort of single cam sort of type show. Though there's single cam segments in it.
I would actually caution when we're thinking about this category that the directors are voting on it. And in the past, we've seen like Modern Family win when it wasn't necessarily the hottest show nominated that season. Also, shows like Dexter have won on the drama side when it wasn't necessarily so obvious that Dexter would have won that particular category. The directors, they do have their own tastes, and perhaps maybe they will vote for a really, really good episode of Veep, like Groundbreaking. So I'm kind of wavering a little on that. If it was an episode, for me personally, I would have probably put in Georgia, because I thought for me that was one of the highlights of this particular season of Veep. But looking at the 3 they've nominated, I mean, there's 3 episodes. It's quite a seal of approval, isn't it, to have all 3 of them take up half the whole category? So that's saying something. Maybe we should just be thinking that Veep is just so well out ahead that it could just overtake the maybe smaller contingent of Atlanta followers.
It really suggests that Veep is probably going to win Best Comedy Series. The fact that it's just dominating all of these smaller races for directing and writing.
And Modern Family did win once when it had 3 nominees in the category. And it won the year after that when it had 2 nominees in the category. So it's not unprecedented.
That was only ranked, though. And so if you were a Modern Family fan, you would put
That's true. But still.
Different. It was a different voting system, and I do think the past years we've seen split voting become more of an issue since we've had a system in place. So I would agree, which is why I might not be predicting Atlanta if we didn't have the new voting system, to be honest. But I think with the new voting, that gets it over the line with a strong episode. It's a really strong episode of Atlanta's too. I think if it was a weak episode, I wouldn't be predicting it as well. I think it's those 2 factors.
Yeah.
I think there is a clear path this year for Veep, because last year their 3 episodes were morning after the season premiere, which everybody saw if they're going into that season, and it was directed by the guy who had won a DGA award a few months before. And then they also had the episode Mother, which was considered the highlight of the season. and also a writing nominee. And then they had the episode directed by David Mandel, who's the showrunner. So like there are very good reasons to pick each of them last year, whereas I think this year David Mandel stands out from the other two Veep episodes. And then it's the same thing with the Silicon Valley episodes. I don't think anybody's going to be voting for Jamie Babbitt over Mike Judge. So like there might not be any vote splitting, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, name recognition is, I mean, your vote, if you're a Silicon Valley fan and you're looking at the two, you're gonna pick the one that's directed by the showrunner. It's just kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah. Unless
and the directors actually see the names on the ballots too, unlike in the writing category.
That's important.
I know that it would talk less now about tapes mattering, but is there any way you could sit down and watch those 2 episodes of Silicon Valley and think the other episode's better? Like, because that would be like, you know, if I was a voter, I would watch the episodes and not just go, I'm voting for the Mike Judge episode. I'm voting for the episode I think is best.
Yeah, no, I'd say the season finale of Silicon Valley was maybe the highlight of the season, and the other episode that they submitted is not even considered by their camp to be one of their 6 best episodes.
Yeah, Charlie.
Yeah, I'm definitely on board with that. Yeah, it's the season finale of Silicon Valley is definitely it's very well directed, and the direction actually comes into play in terms of the comedy delivery in that season finale, where you have that great scene of Stephen Tobolowsky speaking to the Chinese factory that makes all the Huli phones. And he's trying to incentivize, he's trying to make them work faster. Then all of a sudden there's a cut and it's like a breaking news logo comes on. And then you see that he's been taken hostage by the people in the factory. And it's quite wonderful. Not that hostage taking is wonderful, but you know.
No, it's generally
but enough about my high school prom night.
Let's move over to the writers, because that's a really interesting category. In fact, I think it's one of the strongest. It's very, very exciting. We've got Donald Glover nominated for Atlanta again for BAN. Stephen Glover, his colleague for Atlanta, Streets on Lock. Aziz Ansari and Lena Waithe for Master of None for the episode Thanksgiving. Alec Berg for Silicon Valley, Success Failure. Billy Kimball for Veep, Georgia, and David Mandel for Veep, Groundbreaking. So 2 for Atlanta, 2 for Veep, 1 for Silicon Valley, 1 for Master of None. I can see where everyone's already chomping at the bit to talk about vote splitting again. It's such a fascinating topic to talk about. It's boring me to tears already. So I think Charlie, what do you reckon? Because this could be Silicon Valley's turn, right?
It could be. I know that there's a lot of love for Atlanta and the BAN episode in particular. And it seems like a lot of times when we've had people that are starring in their shows but also writing and directing them, writing is a category a lot of times where that win will come to fruition. We saw it with Louis C.K. We saw it last year with Aziz Ansari. So I'm thinking for this one, the Donald Glover, that BAN might be one to be reckoned with, because this also got a lot of recognition in a lot of year-end lists of the best episodes of television. A lot of those critics were putting BAN specifically on that list. So I think that one, the fact that episode stands out, does help it.
Okay, Riley, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm going with Master of None, but like I said, you know, Master of None, I think, is very clearly at the bottom of these nominees in terms of nominating, because they submitted 2 episodes and they couldn't get one of them in, whereas, you know, Atlanta and Veep each submitted 2 episodes. They got both of them in. Silicon Valley did something interesting where, for the first time ever, they've only submitted 1 episode. Before, they had always strategically gone with 2 as well. But we saw this actually with tons of series where, like, we had a lot more series submit this year for writing and directing, but not as many episodes on average. So they're definitely playing the game, which I appreciate. I think it comes down to whether voters know which episode is BAN, but then also it was kind of a divisive episode. So I think there's enough leeway there that I can just say, you know, vote splitting will rule again. And then in that case, they'll go for the more writerly submission that might get a bit more passion than Silicon Valley, which is kind of always riding the coattails of Veep.
And Matt?
We see in these writing races, in acting races, these comedic strong voices like Louis C.K., Aziz Ansari, you can go back to Jerry Seinfeld, struggle to win Emmys. But we see that that with writing is actually where they are respected, and that is the branch which does embrace these sort of voices. And that's, we've had Louis C.K. win twice, we have Aziz Ansari win last year. Stand-up comedians do well in this category. Even like Tina Fey, who did very well here for 30 Rock, winning quite more than she did for acting for 30 Rock. She's not a stand-up, but she's seen as a writer and a strong sort of comedic voice. So that's sort of what I look to here, and which is why I think that probably Aziz Ansari and Lena Waithe, who plays one of the Dev. No.
Sorry, Matt, you're just freezing up. While you're getting back to Earth, Marcus, what do you think?
Yes, Rob. Vote splitting is boring, as you said, but it's also really, really important too.
Like biology.
Yeah. Like, I mean, just look at last year. Veep had 2 nominations. Silicon Valley had 2 nominations, and the one that won was Master of None, which had 1, and also Catastrophe, which I don't know. That was a nominee, but I don't know if it was ever a factor. So when you take that into account and you look at this year's nominations, you have Veep with 2, you have Atlanta with 2, and then you have Silicon Valley and Master of None. I think one of those is going to be the winner, and since Master of None just won last year, it kind of makes sense that that's a front runner. And look, Thanksgiving was also a fantastic episode. Before I watched the season, that's the episode that I heard about. Like, this episode is going to be fantastic. Angela Bassett's great.
It
The
was,
writing's great.
Okay. Matt, sorry, you were just freezing up. Did you want to just finish what you were saying before?
Yeah. Sorry. I was just saying that I think they award these strong comedic voices like stand-ups here more than they sort of do in the acting categories. And I think the reason why I'd go with Aziz and Master of None over Donald Glover with Atlanta is because we know that they like Aziz. That's a voice that we know the Academy's rewarded here before. Donald Glover sort of dealing, like, it's more of a hip-hop type show. Is that slightly out of the Academy's, like, groove? They probably prefer more, the stand-up comedian from Parks and Recreation that is sort of going around Italy having making pasta and spoofing the bicycle thief than got someone doing a show on sort of hip hop culture in Atlanta. But maybe Donald Glover is sort of the cool guy this year, and we see people sort of have a sort of win, especially for first seasons, and it's a good episode.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, my view is he won. Aziz Ansari won last year. This episode, Thanksgiving, is about LGBTQ themes, which might actually people might want to vote for that, and for not for that, but for that reason. And so that might also propel it over the line. And Master of None did very well this season, so it's improved in terms of its overall nominations count. And it's therefore, it's up there, I think, and I think he could easily take this again. So I'll just be predicting Master of None. I'm not even going to give this another second thought. That's where I sit right now. And
not only did Master of None improve, but they doubled their nominations, and voters only had a month to watch the entire season in the midst of getting screeners from everybody else. So I thought there's a significant chance that voters might not have time for it, and maybe some of them didn't. So maybe if they had a bit more time, maybe we would have seen that second episode nominated. We would have seen a directing nomination. It's hard to say with that kind of thing. And finally, I just want to say about Atlanta, I'm wary of that one because they won the Writers Guild Award for Best New Series, which historically skews drama. Like, even when the comedy is more acclaimed, like True Detective over Transparent, House of Cards over Orange is the New Black, going back to Grey's Anatomy over The Office. So I was quite surprised that Atlanta took down, Stranger Things and Westworld.
Good point.
Yeah. Any show could win this. Like, this could be Donald Glover's year. Master of None, the carryover champ, with a great episode. Silicon Valley, they've done very well in nominations in this category. It's a show the Academy likes. It's Alec Berg, and Veep's going to win Best Comedy Series.
Right, and they have these are their two strongest episodes, I guess, because it's what they submitted. But Billy Kimball could easily take this, or David Mandel as a showrunner. So, really, this one's a very difficult category to predict. It's not easy.
Yeah.
Boo-hoo for us.
One of the nominees will win. I think that's what we can take away from this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Shocking win, maybe. The shock would be if Atlanta won not for the BAN episode.
Yeah, that would be a huge shock.
Mhm.
Yeah, if Donald Glover's brother wins instead.
Yeah, that would be a really difficult Thanksgiving for them when they eventually get to know them.
It's only
The
going to
Writers
be
Guild
2 months
did
after
nominate
that, so yeah.
Well,
So-
Donald's going to win directing, and so Stephen can win writing.
That's nice. That's a nice little.
I think if
thing.
that happened, Donald would be really happy, I would guess.
Yeah.
I don't know what their family dynamics are like, maybe not. I
You
just
know,
assume
maybe they don't talk, but they're just saying if Donald Glover loses in directing and Stephen Glover wins in writing, it's going to be a really, really awkward Thanksgiving. That's all I'm saying.
You know
Riley,
he's going to make that Emmy the centerpiece on the table.
totally. The turkey will be stuck on the spikes of the wings. Riley, final thought from you, please.
Oh, I was just saying that Streets Unlocked, the episode by Donald Glover's brother, is actually the episode that the Writers Guild nominated over BAN.
there you go. There you go,
There
mate.
you go.
Maybe
All right, we'll see
After
what
that,
happens.
yeah.
See what happens. Thanks a lot, guys.